Hey guys, it's the Notorious B.I.V here, and this is my review of the Shazam movie because I saw it, and I've wanted to do I've wanted to do I've wanted to do movie reviews for a while now. Um, I was gonna start with Aquaman earlier this year, and I tried to do it a couple times, and it just wasn't like I just wasn't feeling it. It wasn't working, but so I gave up temporarily. But now I'm back. Because, yo, Dre, I got something to say. Okay? And it's this. Shazam was a pretty good movie. It was pretty good. There were a lot of things I liked about it, and I'm going to talk about those now. But first of all, I just want to kind of give some background. Like, I'm not a huge Shazam fan. You know, going into this, I do like comics, obviously. I love comics. They've always been a huge part of my life since I was like a kid, since I was like little kid. But I've never read a Shazam comic. You know, I know that back in the day, like 1940s or something, right? He was, I think, Wiz Comics, maybe. Wiz Comics like decided, oh, we need a Superman type character. That he was kind of a Superman ripoff, which is that's kind of all I know about him. Is like he's kind of a Superman ripoff, and I'm not a huge Superman fan anyway, so it's like, Shazam, whatever. Never been too interested in him. But he was Wiz Comics' version of Superman, and they did a bunch of stories with him, and he was super popular back then. But then his popularity kind of started to wane after a while, and they stopped printing Captain. That's the other thing. He was Captain Marvel, okay? So when he debuted, he was Captain Marvel, and he would say Shazam and turn into Captain Marvel, okay? So he wasn't Shazam, he was Captain Marvel. But when their license kind of lapsed, they stopped printing Shazam comics. The license kind of lapsed for a while, and so Marvel Comics obviously like wanted the name, right? So they started using the name of Captain Marvel, and I don't know if they actually got the rights to it or not. They just started using it, and then by the time DC Comics got around to like actually licensing the character, not licensing, but they got the rights to the character, to the Captain Marvel character. But by then, Marvel kind of already had the rights to the name Captain Marvel, and so DC just had to start calling him Shazam, right? Because they didn't have the Captain Marvel name anymore. Speaking of which, I will post my Captain Marvel movie review sometime soon. Anyway, so that's really all I knew about Captain Marvel. I watched or Shazam, I should say. I watched the Saturday morning cartoon, like the Shazam ISIS Power Hour back in the day, back when I was a kid. And I don't think I can remember like a single episode. So I don't really know much about that, and I don't know how true it was to the character, but I did watch that, and that's really all I knew about Captain Marvel or Shazam going into this movie. So just there's some background. I'm not like a Captain Marvel fanboy or anything like that. That's the point. Okay, that's the point to all that rambling. But so it was a good movie, and it kind of, it had a cool theme. The theme being, like, I like when movies have a theme. The theme to the Captain Marvel movie was kind of about like family, and like who's your real family, and who's your, does your family have to be like your blood family, or can it be like, is it your adopted family, that kind of stuff, right? There were a lot of family themes. Similar to Guardians 2, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had a lot of those themes, right? Like, Peter Quill like meets his blood father, right? And it's like, oh, this is my dad, but then it's like, but then at the end it's kind of like, oh, but who's your real dad? It was like, it was Yondu who was like your adopted dad, right? Like he was, you know what I mean? Similar themes, and I like when movies have themes like that that kind of tie it all together. So Captain Marvel similarly has that family theme going, and you kind of start out. It kind of starts out with Billy Batson. Just he's kind of an orphan, and he's like looking for his mom. He's been looking for his mom everywhere, and he can't find her. He's been in the foster system for several years, and he always he always runs away from foster homes and tries to find his real mom and all this stuff, right? And so he gets placed with a new foster family, and the theme kind of carries throughout the movie. So and I don't know if Billy Batson was like an orphan in the comics or not. I don't know. Again, I don't know a whole lot about the character, but he's an orphan. He's with this foster family, and he and the villain, Dr. Savannah, both come from like a bad family situations, right? And the difference is, Dr. Savannah kind of reacts badly to his family situation, and Shazam, Billy Batson kind of, I don't know, he kind of reacts badly to his family situation at first too, but I guess towards the end, he kind of like comes to some form of acceptance, I guess, and handles it better. Basically, like Dr. Savannah almost got picked to be Shazam back in the day, right? And then so this there's this wizard Shazam, right, that like gives out these powers, and he's getting old and he's gonna die, and he's like, oh, I got to give my powers to someone, right? And he found Dr. Savannah, and then he's like, no, you're not pure of heart. Get out of here, right? Which was it's kind of sad. I was like, that's kind of lame. Like, why did you even bring him here if you're just like, I don't know. He brings him there, and he fails the test or whatever, and he's like, oh, you're not pure of heart. Get out of here. And Dr. Savannah's like, no! And he spends the rest of his life like trying to find this magical realm that the wizard lives in. But anyway, so then the wizard's like, I guess over the years, he keeps like bringing these people to his realm and like testing them, and none of them are like pure of heart or whatever, right? But finally, like Billy Batson is the one that's like pure of heart, and he gets the wizard's powers. And I guess they didn't make it really evident like why he was pure of heart, like why he was the one that got the powers, and like Dr. Savannah didn't, and I guess it's like I said, Billy handles his family situation better than Dr. Savannah did, but they didn't really show that very well. They didn't show it. They just kind of said, oh, well, Billy's pure of heart. And it's like, why? Like, can you show us why a little better? They tried to, and it just didn't work out very well. I mean, what happens basically is like he finally comes to accept his foster family as like, oh, they're my family, right? But it's not so much a choice of his. It seems like it's something that it's more kind of forced on him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, he doesn't make the decision that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just accept my foster family and be cool and whatever. Like, he's mostly just like a huge dick to them for most of the movie. You know what I mean? And so it's like he's just like, oh, you guys are lame and whatever, and treats him like crap for most of the movie. And then at the end, and I don't want to spoil it, but at the end he has an experience that's kind of like, oh hey, yeah, my foster family is really cool, and they're my true family, and I should stop being a dick to them, right? So I guess he figures it out eventually, right? But it's like, but they could have made him a little more sympathetic in the beginning, like had him just like be nice to his family, and like, you know what I mean? Like maybe maybe like he's resigned, like, oh, I didn't find my mom, I guess I got to make the best of this, right? And so I'm gonna like, and so he like gives his all to this new family, but that's not what happens, right? He's just kind of like, oh, another stupid foster family, whatever. You guys are lame, I don't like any of you. And he just, that's like how he is for most of the movie until he finally like accepts at the end that this is his family. So I think they could have done a better job that way, because that's really what sets him apart from. That's the only thing that sets him apart from Dr. Savannah. Dr. Savannah is just like, he has this bad family situation. He's just all like revenge filled and like resentful and like cruel and whatever. And that's why I feel like he didn't get the powers in the first place, because he wasn't pure of heart. Whereas Billy, eventually, that's the thing. It's like he's a dick for most of the film, but then eventually he finally is like, oh hey, I accept my foster family and they're wonderful and I'm gonna like be their brother now, whatever. So that's kind of what sets him apart. Anyway, the thing I really liked about the movie is like it's fun. It's like superhero movies should be fun. They should be, comics shares the root with comedy, right? It's like they're funny, they're fun. Comics need to be fun, and I think that was lost in a lot of DC movies recently. Aquaman kind of brought it back, which is cool. Um, and Shazam kind of follows right along with that same kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's fun to be a superhero. It's cool. Whereas before that, it was a lot of like Superman and Batman were all like, oh, it's a burden. It's like it's a burden to be a superhero and like have all this responsibility and all this stuff, right? Like they focused on that aspect, and you can focus on that aspect, but you still have to have the fun. You know what I mean? You have to have the fun in the movie, and that's what I think Shazam does really well. Is it's like it's fun, right? Um, you know, Shazam's like super stoked to have these powers and whatever. He's like this kid has these superpowers, and it's like awesome, right? Um, that was one thing though that I thought didn't work so well, is that like I never really bought Zachary Levi as the kid, right? As what's his name? I don't know what the actor's name is. Asher something Asher. I don't know. Anyway, the kid actor is always acting like kind of like too cool for school and like, oh, my life sucks and all this stuff, right? Like that was his vibe. And then whenever he's transformed into Shazam, he's Zachary Levi, and he's all like, oh, hey, like this is awesome. I'm totally stoked to be a superhero. Yeah, woo. And so those two, like, I never really bought them as the same character exactly, other than like the movie tells me they're the same character, right? But acting wise, like they don't act like each other, which was a little off-putting. Um, but so but so going along with the family theme, or no, the fun theme. Like it's a fun movie, and they kind of put the fun back in superhero, and there was a really, going back to the family theme. There's a really cool sequence early in the movie where it shows like Billy's remembering back to when his mom, like, he lost, basically his mom and him are at this amusement park, right? And he gets lost, right? He wanders off and gets lost, and it's kind of this idealized, sequence of like it's his memory, right? So it's like all idealized, and then later on in the movie we see a version of that same situation, but it's non-idealized. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really cool. That was a really cool way to do it, because it was very relatable, because how many times do we have these memories of something we experienced, and we think, oh, it was so amazing, it was so wonderful, and in reality, and then later on maybe someone else is relating the same experience, and it's like not the same to them. You know what I mean? It's not like, it wasn't like as awesome for them. So they did that really well. But it was confusing at first when I saw that when we first see him get lost, right, separated from his mom, and it's like, and then he's like in foster care after that, and I'm like, it didn't really make sense to me. Like, how did she lose him, and she's just like, she didn't find him again? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense later in the movie, when we see sort of the other version of what actually happened. Another thing I really liked about the movie is, like, I think Dr. Sivana was like the perfect villain for this movie. I'm glad they didn't like jump to Black Adam. And they did tease Black Adam, and he's gonna be like played by The Rock apparently, right? Like, they've got plans for Black Adam. Obviously, he's like the Joker to Shazam's Batman. You know what I mean? Like, you got to do Black Adam eventually. But I think it was good, really good. I think Dr. Sivana was the perfect villain for this movie. He had a really cool weakness that Shazam was able to exploit, and I really liked that about it, because I can't stand mirror. I hate mirror matches. Okay, and they do that way too often in comic book movies. They have, like, the villain and the hero have the same powers, and they have to fight each other, and it's like, that's boring. You know what I mean? Like in Black Panther, right? It's like Black Panther versus other Black Panther. Who wins? Who cares, right? Same thing like in the Hulk. They had the Hulk and Abomination. They're both big hulking, rage monsters. Right? Like, I don't find that interesting at all. And in Shazam, Dr. Sivana and Shazam do have similar powers, but they're just different enough that it makes it interesting. And like I said, Shazam figures out a way to kind of subvert this weakness of Dr. Sivana as he exploits this weakness, and it's really cool. I like that. It reminded me a lot of Doctor Strange, the end of Doctor Strange, which I also loved, where he couldn't overpower Dormammu, obviously, because Dormammu is just this like huge galactic entity that's just too powerful, right? So he had to find a clever way to win. You know what I mean? And it was way cool. And similarly, Shazam has kind of has a great ending. And that's the other thing, is like Shazam, it nails the third act. It really does. And that's where a lot of movies fail. Wonder Woman was amazing. It was a great movie, and then the third act was just kind of like it was dumb. Oh, she fights Ares, like the so a lot of movies fail to nail the third act, and I think Shazam just like knocks it out of the park. Like, the third act is just amazing. In fact, like Shazam, it takes a little while to get going. I found it a little slow in the beginning, but by the third act, you're on board. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, this is awesome. This is great, and it sets up like an amazing. It sets up a sequel, but it's a great contained movie. Like, if there's not a Shazam sequel, it was still an amazing movie. And that's another thing I really liked about this. It's like, so many movies these days are like setting up the sequel. They're like, oh, well, this movie might have sucked a little bit, but like, the sequel's gonna be amazing, so come see it, right? It's like, well, guess what? What if you don't get a sequel, idiot? Like, you got to make this movie count. You know what I mean? You got to make this one count, not the sequel. Don't set up a sequel that may or may not happen. You know what I mean? And so Shazam does a really good job of just doing a great amazing self-contained movie that, yeah, can can have sequels, but if there aren't any sequels, it's like it's perfect on its own. You know what I mean? And so I really loved that about it too. So um, that's about all I have to say about the Shazam movie. I enjoyed it. The other thing I would say is like, so did they? I guess I have one more thing to say, and that is, I think it's interesting that Captain Marvel came out at the same time as Shazam, and I don't know if like, um, I know Kevin Feige that did, that does all the Marvel movies. I know he when he heard Batman v Superman was coming out, he's like, oh, well, let's do Civil War, right? And he like kind of trolled DC a little bit with putting BVS up against Civil War, and obviously like he won that little face off, and he was like, gotcha DC, right? Um, but in this case, like I don't know if like DC was trying to pull a reverse Feige on Feige, or if maybe Feige thought that Captain Marvel could go up against Shazam, but I think DC actually won this round, honestly. Like, they won the face off. And it's funny that they don't ever actually call Shazam. Well, they don't call him Captain Marvel, obviously, in the movie, because they don't have the rights. But they never actually call him Shazam either, you know? They call him a bunch of nicknames. And I think they called him the Red Cyclone. Like, someone calls him the Red Cyclone, which I think is a nickname of Shazam in the comics, but they never actually call him Shazam in the movie. And I wonder if that's because they're like wanting the Captain Marvel comparison. You know what I mean? If they're encouraging that. At any rate, it was a great movie. I'm gonna give it an A. No, I'm not gonna give it an A. I'm gonna give it a B plus, a solid B plus. It's great. It's a good movie. I loved it. Go see it, and I'll probably get my Captain Marvel review up here eventually, and my Aquaman review for that matter. So stay tuned. Love you guys. This is the Notorious B.I.V, and I will see you guys in the next video. Please like, subscribe, tell all your friends, and share. Bring them to the next video with you. I'll see you guys then. Thanks.